Hello and welcome to Season 4 of the Sunday Podcast, presented by sportsshoes.com. I'm Ollie Lum.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
This podcast is all about elite distance running in the UK.
We're here to give you all the latest news updates around the sport,
as well as weekly interviews with athletes and coaches.
Stay up to date by following us on Instagram and X at Sunday Podcast.
And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel too, where we post athlete workout videos, shoe reviews and more.
Thanks for listening, and as always, we hope you enjoy the episode.
Okay, welcome back to another episode. As you can see, Kate Axford, obviously winner at last weekend's Liverpool long course race in the senior women's. She's coming up, and great to chat to her. Guess it's been a long time coming, mate. We've kind of been thinking about getting her on since her rise or her burst onto the scene, but I think great timing from us as always. Just waiting until she got that first team across the line, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Bit cheeky of us, really, I guess. But no, I mean, it was only, I remember a couple of weeks ago, maybe more than that, you know, I was kind of saying that that Kip run and obviously they've signed a few athletes, Wheeler Boys, Kate Axford, people like that. But I think, you know, in order to be like a true professional, you need a GB vest under your belt, and she obviously hadn't had one yet. And so I think it was, you know, not only was it a long time coming on the podcast, but I think it was the inevitable this winter that she was going to kind of try and shoot for one, especially making that switch to Henderson. And yeah, her rise is quite incredible. I mean, we've had, you know, George Bell on the podcast and her rise, but in many ways, what Kate Axford's doing is almost, you know, more impressive. Obviously, she's got the hardest bit to come is getting to that real top stage and qualifying for summer champs, which, you know, is, you look at the people she's beating, and you know they're right down close on that Olympic standard, and you know, so I think it's likely if she can get indoors and get a fast time potentially in Boston, or if she can find a good race in the summer, I think it is likely that she could well be in Tokyo next year as well.
Yeah, she's going to be there or thereabouts, isn't she, mate? And I think it'll be telling where she kind of stacks up next weekend. We're obviously going to preview Euros before we get into that Axford interview, but it'll be telling where she stacks up against the best of Europe, particularly people like Grovdal, Batacletti. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, obviously that's coming up later on. But before we get into it, mate, loads to talk about. Should we start with the drama of that team announcement?
Mate, Jesus, yeah. And there was drama. Like, I think biggest surprise, the stinkiest decision was snubbing Holly Dixon over Elise Dorner for on the short course relay. That's like, to have, like, I get, you know, that second spot is discretionary, but to give it to someone who finished behind, I was just like, and the thing is, it's not like on the track where you have form to go by, where you have, you know, it's such a unique event. Like, on the track, people have got PBs. Maybe they just had a bad day, but they're 5 seconds faster than someone over 1500. Yeah, we get it. But, you know, some would still disagree with it. But anyway, I think there's more justification. But yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. And I just feel sorry. I feel sorry for them both, because Holly Dixon's been hard done by. But then Elise Dorner, like, you're not going to say no to a GB vest. But I think, you know, we're not giving her stick, but I think you're going to feel like, really, did I deserve it? And I don't think you want to earn your GB vest in that way. But it's just, I don't even know what the selectors are on. But you know, maybe Elise Dorner, we don't know what's happened. Maybe she was really ill, etc. But yeah, that's a rogue decision.
Yeah, I think you're bang on there, mate, in terms of, like, you do feel sorry for them both, because no one is having a go at Elise Dorner for making a team, but a lot of people are making noises on social media saying, why haven't you picked Holly Dixon? And you know what running's like, everyone follows each other, everyone knows each other, and you're gonna be seeing that. You're gonna be seeing people question the decision. Like, obviously we're doing it right now. I mean, but yeah, no one's having a go at the athletes. This is purely a selection issue. And obviously, yeah, at first, when the team came out, we were sort of like, has Holly Dixon declined? She's obviously come out since on Instagram, and she said, no, she obviously wanted to go and feels hard done by herself, and rightly so.
I think, look, this will all get brushed under the carpet, right, as the weeks go by, and obviously as Euros hits, because, you know, it's a mixed relays team, and you know, unfortunately, it will be forgotten about. But I think there's just serious questions over this selection team. Yeah, whoever is making these decisions, it's shocking. Anyway, that was I guess the worst one of the lot. There were a few rogue ones. I mean the women's under 23s team was strange to me again. Tia Wilson over in the NCAA, Florida Gators 63rd at the NCAA. And I know she was on the team last year at the Euros and stuff, but she got added. So did Phoebe Anderson of Columbia, 26th at the NCAA. What was weird there was Shannon Flockhart, who I was double checking she's eligible. Seems like she's eligible, still under 23, everything like that. Was a couple places ahead of Phoebe Anderson. She was 24th in the NCAA, running for Providence, who, by the way, their team got a bronze medal. And she wasn't included in the team, and whether she was invited and she declined it and was just like, yeah, I'm just going to crack on with my NCAA season, then yeah, maybe that's understandable, and that's fair. But I do think with the NCAA, like 63rd in the NCAA, I mean, I think when you go over there, it you're almost saying, goodbye to these sorts of teams. Yes, like if you're good enough, you're gonna make track teams and stuff, but you have to make them outright. And obviously the NCAAs was difficult; it clashed, but I'm not sure that was a performance. I would feel very hard done by if I was the athlete in sixth place or fifth place, and someone who was 63rd in the NCAA is pushing you out of your spot.
Yeah, I think so. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, 63rd in the NCAA is a really good run, but I think this goes against what we normally see as well. Like, I think if you get all Americans to top 40, you're probably thinking, okay, yeah, we can start having a conversation. But normally, unless you're in the top 20, top 10, it's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, she's at Florida Gators. Like it's an incredible program. Like it doesn't get any better than that as a runner, to be honest with you. I mean, professionals kind of don't even get the facilities and the coaching, and the kit and stuff like that she's got access to. So I do feel like, yeah, when you go over to America, I think there's certain things that you're probably aware that you're going to miss out on, and that's just the price you pay to be a part of such an incredible program and take on such a good opportunity to further your athletics. So to kind of be coming back and doing it, plus she's got a mega travel that she's going to have to contend with, get back, and obviously kind of post NCAA hangover. So I thought it was harsh. To be honest with you, what was weird, I've gone on the final entries as well of the European Athletics website, and obviously Wilson and Anderson are in the team. They got taken over India Pentland and Emily Parker, but B Wood is named as a reserve, and neither of those two are. And I was just like, huh? Like she ran Liverpool and dropped out. So I don't really know what's gone on with this selection, but it's yeah, that was so I guess that was the next point.
Yeah, maybe more to that than we know, I guess. So if anyone
I
does,
think there is. I think there's
yeah,
clearly potentially a lot of conversations, but who did I see? Callum Johnson. Right, let's move on to that because obviously, yeah,
yeah,
Zach Mohammed's going to go over Callum Johnson, and he came out on social media and said, um, there's no conversation with him. They don't know where he's at in his training. There's none, and we're saying, yeah, there might be a lot more to it, but is there? Because people like Callum Johnson left in the dark, but you bet your life they're having conversations with Zach Mohammed when he calls up and says they're ill. And there's
yeah,
this favoritism. Look, it was Phil Norman in the summer, and there is just these discussions with athletes that BA probably have on speed dial, and others are just left on the outside in the complete darkness.
yeah. I think. How would you feel, mate? Because obviously we've had a few different like examples in it. Obviously Zach Mohammed didn't run at all, and he's been picked over Callum Johnson. Is that better or worse than say James Kingston runs, has a bad run for him? Like we
Mm,
expect Kingston
mm.
to make a team, right? Finishes 15th, but then gets taken over over Ingram, who finished sixth. Like what is worse?
Yeah, it's actually. I was thinking about this, and I was like, yeah, as an athlete who's in that sixth spot, it's yeah, I don't know. Both would be frustrating. I think I think what you don't know is probably easier to take. I think they're both different, slightly different things as well. Like Zach Mohammed is proven on the cross. He's proven on the half as well. Like he is, I think what is he, under 23? He's silver medalist. Was it him and Hicks a couple years ago?
Mm.
Um, yeah, like he is proven. And I think Callum Johnson, as frustrated as he'll be, he'll probably come to terms with it and be like, yeah. I think if someone's in the race and you beat them, I think that's harder.
Yeah. I was gonna agree with you there, mate. I think, yeah. Especially, I just think even if you're ill or whatever, like you could be ill at Euros. Like we've always said, part of the battle is getting to the start line in the right space, in the right shape. Um, yeah, it's tough. Like, and we obviously we predicted James Kingston would make the team, so he's obviously got pedigree, um, and I'm sure he'll run well. But
Yeah, he was ill, had tonsillitis, and I think, and so yeah, it is, and I got to give credit to him, like lining up and giving it a whirl, and stuff like that as well. He does have pedigree, mate. He's national cross country champion. I think it would have been hard, and it's not like he's a slouch on the faster stuff as well. Like he's one of the fastest 5,000 meter runners we've got as an under 23. And obviously with it
yeah, yeah, of
being
course, yeah.
6K, just over something like that, it does make sense. But then again, it comes back to that old thing when athletes aren't at a champs and it's 2 weeks before. If you've been ill, how much time have you had to have off? How much like emotional stress have you gone through? How fit, like how quickly you're going to be able to turn that around? How fit you're going to be
Yeah.
in kind of 2 weeks time?
Yeah, and back to the Zach Mohammed thing. Like, don't get me wrong, he's probably one of the best cross country runners we have in terms of on his best day. We're talking about Callum Johnson. And Callum Johnson is no slouch on the cross country. It's not like this guy
Also a
doesn't have
national
pedigree
champion.
either. It's not like Callum Johnson is a random. Do you know what I mean? It's not like me or you who turned up and came sixth and they picked Zach Mohammed over him. It's Callum Johnson, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, and been on multiple GB teams. Yeah, he makes the argument that he too is on a trajectory to be in
Mm.
a better place in 2 weeks' time. And I think I think a lot of athletes who are aiming to make that team were also aiming to be super hot for when the Euros comes around. So yeah, it's a tough one. Both of them I can understand. To be honest with you, so both of them I wasn't like, that's a poor shout, unlike the mixed relay. And then the only other one, which wasn't a surprise, was obviously George Cootie in for Noah Campion. And George Cootie now goes. We may as well move on to previewing this European cross, man, because I think final entries came out today, and George Cootie goes into this under 20s with a real chance of gold. I mean, Laos is great on the track. Obviously, he's phenomenal on the cross. I think he is beatable. He showed that last year. And his Cardiff result was like it was strong, but I think Cootie's NCAA result was better,
Mm.
pound for pound. And that was over 10K. So the leveler is that fact it's a little bit shorter between them two, but yeah, I think it is going to between them two. There's a couple of others to look out for as well.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And it's exciting to see kind of that Laros is doing it. I mean, obviously, great that he came to Cardiff, taking his cross country seriously. Mate, I can't believe he's still an under 20, to be honest. All these guys coming through, I'm always thinking, yeah, they must be getting old now.
Yeah, it's
But
because you've seen it on Diamond Leagues for like the last 2 years.
yeah,
It's just a credit to how good he is on over 1,500.
um, yeah, absolutely crazy. Cootie, how tired is he going to be? Because I know it's 2 weeks, but like you mentioned before, the travel, even just running that race, right? Running,
Yeah, and I think,
running a race that gets you 14th for the NCAA
but
is
it's
not
not
easy.
it's not just the race. For those in America, it's the end of a season.
Mm,
And so it's like it's the end of, throughout that season, there would have been periods where, they're sacrificing a lot. They're in deep, the workload's high, they're pushing themselves. Like there's a lot of like emotional ups and downs. And so it's not, and that's anyone who's kind of run the NCA, and they can probably relate to that. I mean, we haven't, but just from speaking to people and knowing athletics a little bit, there is a little bit of a come down because it is the end of something that you've worked really hard towards, and so to pick yourself back up is very hard. So yeah, how tight is he going to be? I mean, time will tell, right? I think it's going to be fast. It's going to be firm. Twisty, shortish course for these guys. It's going to be exciting. A couple to watch out for though. I mean, there's a Norwegian guy, Andreas Harvardsson. He's the world under 20 champ over 3,000. And he won that in a filthy kick finish. So if you're a world under 20 champ, like we know how good those East African youngsters are. I think he's got a serious shot to also try and win and beat Laros because I think Laros is beatable. And then there's a few other Dutch guys to look out for in the under 20 men's who are, kind of around that 1330 to 1340 mark over 5K. One of them is Zuiderland of Holland. He also did Cardiff Cross. He's coaching the same group as Laros. Basically, the whole Dutch team is coached by Thomas Lewandowski, to be fair. Head of endurance over there. So I think it's going to be a good, interesting team battle because I think between GB, Norway, and Holland, one of those teams is going to win. And obviously, I think one of those teams is going to post the individual winner as well.
Yeah, and have you got the official distances for the under 20 race as well, actually?
Yeah, man, I do. What is it? I suppose he 4.8K.
4.8K. So they are going to be absolutely steamrolling.
Yeah, yeah, 4.8K. Yeah, and then on the distances, to be fair, the under 23s is 6.3K is the official distance, and the senior races are 7.8K.
Okay. Let's
Yeah,
get into those under 23s then, mate. Another mate, I mentioned Laros still being under 20. Another person who seems to just stay in the age groups. Nick Griggs, obviously in the under 23 race, had him on the podcast before running for Ireland. And he's obviously going to be one to watch out for. Mate, he's another one that obviously we're on the cross right now, but he surely has got to start making some big jumps on the track. I'm not saying he kind of like is any slouch, but I think we're going to start seeing now, like in the summers, Nick Grigg is going to get those times right down to world class level rather than kind of junior level in the next couple of years.
yeah. Well, I think the one. I mean, he ran a crazy 3,000. I only ran 735 or something, 736. But I think, yeah, you probably are asking for his. You're probably talking about his 1,500 time, aren't you? Like his 5,000 again, 1313, and he sort of lowered his 15 time to 335 this year, and I guess that's where you might be asking more. But I think he might just be, more of an endurance guy. Like
No,
he
but I think
started out in his career.
even the 5, mate, because I just hold him in the same
Mate,
regard as
13, yeah, but 13 for 19 years old is ridiculous.
oh, of course it is. No, what I'm saying is I think I see him now. Now he is getting a little bit older. He's going to be right up there in terms of getting like low 13s. I think of him compared to some of our 5K guys who've run slightly quicker than that, of course. And I'm like, I hold Nick Griggs in the same regard as those boys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think he is better. I think he is going to get into the
Hmm.
like down into low 14s. It's going to be interesting. I think he's going to start to gravitate towards the 5,000 and
Yeah,
focus on it a little bit more. I think that 1313. I think he was very much still focused on the kind of 15ish this year, and it just so happened that he was able to post a really good 5,000 time. So yeah, it'll be telling. But yeah, 1313 at 19 years old, boy, have you got a future in that event. And it's 3,000 as well. I think it was at London Diamond League as well. I just got on the back of that train from memory. I think it was there.
yeah.
So yeah. So what can he do at the under 23s, mate? I mean, obviously he's run well over the cross as an under 20. He was seventh by the way at a really muddy, soft, bit like Liverpool, but probably a little bit worse at the Irish champs. So yeah, what can he do
He
against
ripped a
our
park run the
boys?
other day as well, didn't he?
Oh shit, yeah, 13, 44. Yeah, park run. Yeah. Yeah. So he's obviously in really good shape, but and I think again, if it's soft and sorry, if it's firm and fast, that's going to favour him a lot compared to a soft, boggy Irish champs that he had. So I expect him to feature. It is going to be a 5,000 meter runners race. And on that, how are the GB boys going to fare with it being really firm and really fast? I guess David Stone, huge run, and he's just a complete unknown. Like, is he just really good in the mud, or is he due is he going to go run 13:20 next summer over
Mm.
5,000? I mean, the guys he's running with, training with, I mean, they're going to be roundabouts there, aren't they? You think Tamara and Barnico's already down there, but those guys are going to get down there. So um, how he gets on the weekend, I think, will be an indication to how he'll cope on the come the
Yeah.
summer over 5,000. If his performance is nowhere near as good as Liverpool, then you're going, maybe he is just a master in the mud.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult for someone like him because I'll be interested to know how Barnico's feeling after Liverpool, like how much of a measured run that was. Um, because we expect him to be right up there. Despite that Liverpool performance, we expect him to be right up. Well, I do anyway, expect him to be right up there at the Euros and really get after it.
Yeah, and I think he might be someone who was thinking about Euros.
Mm,
As soon as cross country season rolls around, he's thinking about Euros, and that's kind of all he cares about. And look, Euros is a race. He's going to pay so much closer attention to the front end as a defending champ. Like he's not really going to let people break away,
mm.
uh, which is obviously what happened at Liverpool. So, I mean, the fact that you've got both of them in there who are going to help each other out, push each other along, I think is awesome as well. And obviously, you got Kingston. If Kingston if he's 100% healthy, I think he's the next guy behind those two. But by the way, it's three to score in all the events at Euros as well. So when we're talking about kind of team winners and stuff. GB, I think, have a great shot. France was second last year. They have a pretty good shot as well. I think Norway got bronze last year, but they only got one man entered. A couple other names, I guess, foreign names to look out for. Axel Van Christensen, under 20 champ last year. Yeah, what can he do stepping up? He's had a pretty good cross season already. He's done a couple cross races. They've all gone well. Took a few wins up. So yeah, how he's going to perform will be interesting. And there's a French guy, Le Baron, who ran an 8:15 steeple in the summer, and he's kind of their leading guy for the under 23s. But it's a weird age group, man. In fact, the only other guy other than Nick Griggs, talking of track, Stefan Nielsen, 19 Olympic Games, 1500. And obviously trains with Thomas Lewandowski as well, trains with Laos, had a massive, crazy breakout year. He goes, so how can he? But his Cardiff performance didn't get me that excited, to be fair.
Mm. Completely different race though, isn't it? I mean, I know it wasn't as muddy as
It is,
Liverpool,
yeah.
but Cardiff's a much tougher course than what we're expecting to see.
Put it this way, he wouldn't have even made
Euros.
our, I don't think he would have made our under 23 team if he ran at
Yeah.
Liverpool, looking at his Cardiff result.
Mm.
So yeah, he's lucky it's going to be firm. If it is firm, I've actually got no. We tried to get it out of Kate Axford. Rumor has it she'd seen the course, but yeah, we've got no idea of the course. It looks twisty. All we know is the official distance on the website. There's some man-made obstacles and some man-made hills and stuff like that as well. So that's all we got for you so far. So yeah, there's the under 23s. Obviously, there'll be a few more in there as well. It is, like I said, it's quite a difficult age group to really break down because you've got some. Um, there's just not much show of form pre-Euros, to be honest.
Yeah, particularly from the foreign athletes. Obviously, we pay a lot closer attention to the domestic scene, but knowing where those internationals are kind of come in there, like we don't even really know what the standard of their trials is, even if we check the results or find footage. So you should never really know, do you? But mate,
Yeah, and what I can tell you is you've just got a shed load of guys who can run
mm,
30, 45 in that sort of ballpark.
yeah,
Um, and so it's strong. Um, Up at the front, it's sharp up at the front, but I do think the depth slips away a little bit
yeah,
quite quickly, quicker than other age groups, quicker than the under 20s and the seniors.
yeah, for sure. Let's get into those seniors, mate. Obviously, big news is Jakob's going to be running, and he's again coming off a disappointing summer in a way.
Disappointing summer. God, you crack me up. But yeah, I guess he lost the
I'm sure
Olympics.
he'll be disappointing, mate.
Yeah, I'm sure he
So,
will. Talking to Jakob, actually, there's some quite staggering information coming out on the abuse Gert gave him when he was a kid. So there's a few articles, probably not even, yeah, probably best not to say on a podcast. There's just a few articles out there, I'm sure you can go find. But yeah, it goes into
mm,
detail kind of what Gert did to him as a kid. So yeah, a bit of a, yeah, some bad news, really. A bit shocking. Um, but yeah, he's mate. Is he heavy favorite for this? I mean, there's going to be some bloody good guys doing this race.
Yeah, I think he still remains the favorite, but he's definitely not he's not a lock, is he? Like you mentioned some of those other guys, like Cripper is an absolute beast on the cross country, always has been. And he's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The one thing I thought about Cripper a little bit though, and I was like, you know what? One thing he hasn't done, he hasn't really raced on the track in over a year, below like kind of below 5,000 or 5,000 and below. And I do feel like those who do well at Eurocross, they do have a track season. They do. You got to get that kind of, real speed in you in the summer. And I think, it's all well and good. He's obviously a beast over the marathon. Was he 206? He won the half at the Euros and stuff. But I just don't know if he's going to how to live with some of the kind of change of paces as guys who, I mean, you got three Belgians who can pretty much all run 13.0s and obviously Kimeli's below that as well. Then you've got Jakob, then you've got Nduka Manyayu of Spain, who's a 26:49 10K guy, and he's a sub 13-minute 5,000 runner as well. Plus he's a sub 60 half guy and won a few cross countries this season already, won the Cross Italia, where Cripper was fourth. So I don't think Cripper will, I don't think he medals, to be honest with you.
Who's the best British cross country runner right now?
What, who's going to Euros or
No, no, who's the best?
it would be Emil Caress if he raced. Yeah, and Emil's way better than Cripper. Cripper's run a faster, Cripper's got a faster speed. Emil's fourth in the Olympic Games
No,
marathon.
no, no. I know, I know. I'm not
He
disputing that. I'm just saying, another marathon guy, strength,
No,
strength.
no, but mate, different story. So Emil in 2022 got second behind Jakob and pushed Jakob close. In that same race, Cripper was fourth. That year, Cripper had a great track season at the Europeans and stuff. And and so Cripper hasn't got that track season behind him, and he was still fourth that year. He hasn't got that track season behind him or anything like that. He's just getting a little bit more endurance. The race is short as well. It's seven and a bit K. It's under 5 miles of running. I'm just saying, he had his best cross country off of a track season.
Yeah, yeah, you make a good point. I just think he's always been good at cross, and like through the age groups and yeah, maybe we've not seen
Well,
him.
I think he's always been. Mate, don't forget the age groups are deceiving because you're just looking at how they match up in a very small, against people their own age.
Mm,
Whereas when you go into seniors, it's just a much wider spread of abilities. And I don't know if he's been good at like really, really good at cross or just a good runner. I think he's just
true,
been a good
true.
runner,
I think that's
age
a fair
mate,
point.
and just
Yeah.
yeah, dominating. Like he's obviously just been good at the five, been good at the 10. Like he's just been a good endurance runner and usually pretty good at cross if you are. So um, he's been one of the best in his age group when he was growing up. But obviously he's in the senior. I mean that was years ago, but he's in the seniors now and yeah, all I'm saying is that I don't think Cripper medals, to be honest with you. I think there's better guys. I think Belgium won gold last year. I think they're going to be in a great shout to win it again, to be honest. I think Norway will challenge them for the team title. Obviously, if Jakob gets that low stick and wins. And then you got Meyer as well, who was second last year on a really muddy course. He hasn't done anything in 2024, by the way. So how he'll get on, I don't know. But yeah, I think the biggest challenger for Jakob is Enrique Muñoz of Spain. Great summer, great half marathon in Valencia, 59:42. It's a lot faster than Jakob. He's already got a few crosses under his belt. He's won them. And I would actually go to say that as good as Jakob is on the cross, we haven't seen him on the cross for a long time. And I think good old Thierry is the favorite for me.
Yeah, I mean, Jakob also, this is be his first cross since injury as well, or his first Euro cross since that injury. Um, and
Yep.
as we know, cross is probably not the nicest one when you've had any sort of kind of previous injuries, and before that injury, Jakob had seemed pretty invincible. He's very different kind of
I think,
after
yeah,
that.
I think what will frustrate me is if these guys don't don't force it and don't try and break Jakob. Like Jakob does have that kind of aura about him, and sometimes when he gets to the front, he can control a cross, and it might even mean that he'll get to the front at some point, and he might just control that opening couple Ks, or he might control, from sort of 4 to 6 K where people have started to settle in, and he just controls it and settles it down for a K or two. And I think these guys, they are going to challenge him. They're going to beat him. I mean, by the way, France's team, with Scrub coming back, defending champ, Alex Mille, European steeple champ. Bastien Augusto is a 60-minute half marathon guy as well, mid 27, 10K. Like, they've got guys who can challenge and really force things on as well. And I just hope that people really do, like someone like Thierry Ndiki really pushes things on, and tries to challenge Jakob, and they try and drop him, they try and break him.
Yeah, I think that's what we all want, right? Is a hard run race. We want to see Jakob be tested. And then if he is, I don't think from a neutral perspective anyone really minds after that. My question is to you, mate. How do how do the Brits stack up, and do any of them even crack into like the top 5, top 10?
I mean, top 5 is going to be extremely difficult. Even someone as good as Hugo Milner last year, it was really muddy, and that was a bit of a leveler. Especially, Cripper did do it last year, by the way, and what was he, 10th or something like that, maybe 12th or something. Whereas this year, being a bit shorter, being faster as well, probably from the off, and you think you add in people. I mean, it was 4th last year, then you add in Jakob, people like that. I think it'll be difficult. If we get a Brit in the top 5, that is honestly a mega run.
Yeah.
In that company, you've got 4 or 5 people who can break 13 minutes in this race, including Jakob Ingebrigtsen. You've got a load who are kind of 12. You've got a 206 marathon runner. Like, that would be something special. Top 10, definitely. I think we can have someone in the top 10. Got no doubts about that. Who it is, whether it's Milner, whether it's Tamir, who knows?
Yeah, I think you're bang on there, mate. I think top 5 be a mega run. I think even top 10 is going to be a mega run. Like if we can get a couple in the top 10, then I think definitely like some really promising, I guess, rest of the winter and early track seasons for those guys as well.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is like when we talk about the others, Zach Mohammed, Leonard, BT, these are all guys as well who can feature. Ellis Cross as well, who can feature high up. All got 13, 20-ish 5Ks. And I think there is just, we talk about depth. There is just a lot of depth when you go through the entries and stuff, the amount of guys who can kind of operate in that region. So yeah, I think it's gonna. But I think this course will suit our boys a bit more because they are 5K, 10K guys, and they do like a firm, hard surface. So I think we've got a pack well if we get a team medal. I mean, outside shot a team bronze, maybe sneaking that, maybe a team silver. Gold would be extremely difficult. But yeah, outside shot at a team medal, but they'd have to all pack kind of 10, 11, 12, something in that region, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we move on to the women?
Yes, mate, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I guess start with those under 20s as we did with the men, and well, Chris Barnes reckons this is the one nailed on for gold, doesn't he?
Hey, yeah, we put a poll out, didn't we? Put a poll. What team is and on that, the senior men came back the lowest. So out of all of that, people think they have the least chance of getting a team medal, which I think just because of the strength in the senior men's, I think in Europe right now, I think that's fair. By the way, if France had, I was a bit gutted not to see Gressier and people like that announced on those final entries because he did a few cross races and he's clearly running well. It would have been great to see him, but there you go. But yeah, no, I think women's under 20s, I mean, that's an absolute lock. I think we win gold hands down. Inez defending champ, can she go get that? Defend her title? It's looking likely the way she ran Liverpool, but I watched a few YouTubes. By the way, there's a lot of good YouTubes out there on Liverpool. People really breaking the event down, coverage great. So appreciate that. Anti-Concrete Track Club. I do chuckle at their videos. They are good. They're entertaining. And they're saying that maybe Jess Bailey is playing a canny game and just saving herself off the back of podium, just playing a bit tactical, saving herself for Euros, going to put Innes under pressure there. It's a rivalry that I'm here for between them two. It really is.
Yeah,
Um,
mate. On that rivalry, obviously Innes just been announced for podium 5K as well on New Year's Eve, and she's clearly feeling the rivalry as well. She's like, right, I'm going to podium and I'm getting that record.
Shit, yeah, as well. I need to check her age, but under 20s obviously moves to calendar years, so maybe she'll be an under. I think she's still under 20 for another year, isn't she? But it might even be that she gets it on the final day of being
Yeah,
an under 20. That would be special. But no, yes, yeah, going back, that'll be cool to see what she does. But yeah, those two, and then Lizzie Wellstead as well. Like you think that's probably going to be our top three. She was second at Cardiff Cross behind Inez and 13th last year at Euros as well. So the one person who might challenge these girls though is Sofia Thorgerson of Denmark, like silver medalist last year. She was right behind Izzy Fry and Poppy Tank at Cardiff. So in the seniors,
mm,
stepped up there to race them 405 1500 runner, fifth at the world under 20 champs over 3000. I think she's going to challenge our girls. She's going to get amongst it on the podium. Outside of that, I mean, Lacour as well. France is coming back. She was a bronze medalist last year, and yeah, hasn't shown much form at all, to be honest, in the summer. So how she'll get on. Outside of those people, I'll admit, I'm not so sure.
yeah. I think that's
Who's
fair,
going to
mate.
feature like from Spain and places like that?
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Um, Under 23 women now, obviously, getting into this, and this is the one where are you feeling the pressure, right? If you're some of these athletes who've been brought in from the NCAA, you feeling the pressure going into this race?
Yeah, you probably are. I think that's fair. I think that is fair. Um, I think if you're coming in from the NCAAs, you'll look at it and you go, well, I want to be on the scoring team.
Yeah.
I want to be in that top to justify the selection. 100%. That will be their goal.
Mm.
I
And not
think
just scoring. Uh, I think you come in, and if you've been selected off that, well, you're thinking, well, the NCAA is clearly a much superior race than Liverpool, which means on that basis you should be finishing well high up at Euro under 23s, and you should be cracking into like close to the top 10, or in the top 10.
yep, yep, yeah, easily. I mean, obviously we have Megan Keith extremely stunning performance last year, and that's your low stick. But I look at this team now, I'm like, yeah, who's going to be that low stick? Who's going to get you, in that top five down there? And I think it, to be honest, is wide open in women's under 23s. Mononen of Finland, she was second last year behind Megan Keith, but again, that was just the course was ridiculous. She's a steeplechaser. She's strong. She was sixth at European steeplechase, by the way. She actually comes back as a Nordic champ, so I think she probably goes into this as favorite. To be honest with you, outside of that, the women's under 23 is absolutely wide open. It's there for someone to announce himself.
Yeah, for sure, mate, for sure. Senior women?
Senior women, yeah, Grovdal going four in a row. I mean, this for me is a head-to-head. Grovdal beat Battlecletti, right? What's interesting about these two, both had the same 5,000 meter PB, 14:31. Obviously, Battlecletti, a crazy year. Silver at the Olympic Games over 10,000, fourth over five. Like, she just stunned.
Mm.
That was probably one of the they do a most improved at the Olympic Games because she definitely
Yeah,
won
apart
it.
from
But
Georgia
yeah,
Bell.
oh crap, yeah. Apart from Georgia Birch, yeah, she probably does steal it. But yeah, I mean, what she did this summer was beyond belief. And it for me, it's a head to head between them two. Grovdal, obviously super experienced on the cross. Can she get four in a row? Was just as good at Olympic Games as well. Eighth over the 5,000, won the European half marathons, second behind Battlecletti at the Euro 5,000 in the summer. 66:55 Copenhagen half. Like, yeah, stupid long list of credentials, just like
Yeah.
Battlecletti. But I guess, and Grovdal won last year, made light work of Battlecletti. But and considering Battlecletti went on to have the year she had, she must have been in good shape in December. Do you know what I mean? It
Mm.
must have been going well. But the course was ridiculous. We know that. And
Yeah.
so for it to be fast, a teeny bit shorter, um, I think I'm going to favour Batacleti for this one.
Yeah. What I would say is, whilst obviously Bascaletti looks to be like based off last year, the better track runner, like the faster runner, right? I think Grovdal, as you mentioned, has improved on the track massively as well. So, cause she's always been a great cross country runner, and I think now her track performances have started to almost reflect that. Like road performances have started to reflect that,
Yeah.
how good she is on the cross. So, I wouldn't be surprised if she is, like you say, it's definitely the two of them head to head. But I wouldn't be surprised if she beats Battlecletti, to be honest, just because of how good on the country she is. Because it's not like she's just stayed the same in general, and Battlecletti's improved. Like Grovdale's improved on the track massively as well compared to like a couple of years ago. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
I
she's
think,
got speed
yeah,
improved, like,
you,
and we
you
know how
make
good
a
she is
good
on the
point,
cross.
man. Yeah, you make a good point because I think Grovdale ran a PB for 3,000 this year as well. She just broke 830 this summer, 825 or something like that. So, like she too is come down on the track. You're right, but I just fear Grovdale will have to drop Battacletti, and I just don't think that's going to happen because
Yeah.
Battacletti wins in the sprint finish any day of the week. So
Mm.
with that in mind, like when it was really muddy last year, there was just a limit to how fast you could go. And if you get dropped, I mean, it was going to be always really tough to close any gaps and catch up with people. So, but yeah, to get dropped on this course, nothing really to break Battacletti's rhythm. If it's firm as well, her turnover is incredible. Yeah, I can see it just going one way, to be honest. But it'll be a great storyline if Grovdale can go get four in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. Should be the king chairs of the European cross.
King Chairs of Eurocross, mate. Who else we got? Anyway, women's Team Germany, Hannah Klein. I mean, what's cool about this senior women's race is there's so many of them who ran the 5,000 in Rome this summer are pretty much all doing it. I mean, Hannah Klein's doing it. She was sixth in the Euro 5,000 this summer. She's German cross champ. Klosterhalfen, 67 half, not too long ago in Valencia. She got second in a cross in Madrid a couple of weeks ago as well. So she's kind of getting back to her best. Obviously, hasn't been there in a little while. Um, Del Bueno of Italy as well, Federica Del Bueno, seventh at the Europeans. So the reason why I mentioned her and Hannah Klein is literally just ahead of Izzy Fry,
Yeah.
who obviously ran really well at Europeans as well. So you've got a whole load of women who are sort of 15 between 40 and 50 and 15 minutes. And who comes out on top, I think is going to be a great battle just further back because it's going to be, I think you're going to have those two up front and then you're going to have everyone else.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, what last year, Donnelly third, Judd fifth, and Izzy Fry 10th. I think, yeah, to sort of go win the team again, it's going to take something similar.
Yeah, mate, and to be honest, I'd expect these British women to be, like you say, after the top two, I'd expect them to be right up there with whichever group is sitting behind that and really getting after it. I think most of the women who've made this team, I'm trying to think, if not
They're
all of them.
15-minute 5K rides. I think the only one who
Yeah.
potentially isn't is Jess Gibbon, right? But yeah, Abby Donnelly, Carrie Hughes, Izzy Fry, Kate Axford, Poppy Tank, like you would probably say that I know they don't all have PB sub 15 minutes, but they will.
Yeah. But I also think they're all well, most of them, particularly the ones who come top three anyway, who actually score, they are women who will have backed themselves to make this team. And like we were saying at the start, are peaking for European cross. They were not peaking a week ago in Liverpool, and they were
Yeah,
thinking, yeah,
agreed.
like take Izzy Fry, 10th last year. Obviously, she'll have been thinking, yeah, I need to make sure I get that team boxed off. But she'll have been thinking about Europeans, not, she's no longer at a stage where she's thinking, oh, my aim this year is to make the team at Liverpool. No, no. Her aim this year is to go and come top five, whatever. Like, Donnelly got a medal last year. Why can't someone like she?
Mm. Yeah. And I think with this senior women's team, you talk about Liverpool being quite important. I think a lot of them just wanted to make sure they were on the team. And so I think the way you run the trial, the risks you might take in the trial at certain points, I think are a little bit different as well. Because it was, senior women's awfully competitive. But yeah, I think yeah, they have a really, really good shot of winning the gold. I'd be surprised if they don't get the team gold, to be honest.
Yeah. I think so too, mate. And obviously, Axford coming up on the pod, mate. After speaking to her, I'm just full of confidence in what she's going to do. To be honest, just like listening to her talk about kind of her approach this year and just seeing the strides she's made. I think she really ran away from that field last week, and you'd expect her to be right up there.
We do indeed. We do indeed. I think, yeah, it'd just be cool to see what they can do. To be honest, and how they fare off. As good as and exciting as Liverpool is, I think having the Europeans so close after and seeing how people run is almost like a reassurance. Yeah, Liverpool is a really competitive cross race. Or in some cases, you might be like, maybe we're not quite as good as we think we are at cross country in this, in the UK. So I think time will tell. Buzzing for it. Always love the European cross. Obviously, yeah, next Sunday, I think local time, 11 o'clock, the first race. But Turkey, I think, are 3 hours ahead. So, well, that'd be 8 o'clock for us. That'd be the under 20 women's. And obviously, so that's perfect timing, really. 8 o'clock, senior women's, senior men's. They're due at half one. What's that then? Is that half 10? So get your long run done. Jesus, listen to Sunny podcast. Get back, get your long run done. Senior women's race at half 10. Bish bash bosh. What a Sunday. That's what Sundays are made of. But mate, let's a few other things I think worth talking about before we dive into this Kate Axford episode. Mark Rowland, news this week, takes the Edinburgh, what I understood is like the Edinburgh University head of endurance role. And this was a job application which was posted maybe a couple months ago, maybe a month or so ago, well, a little while ago anyway. 50 grand, but you're not just head of endurance at Edinburgh Uni. They're calling it the head of global endurance program at Edinburgh University. I think they want to kind of level up all sports and especially their endurance program. I think it's fascinating that this role kind of came about. The credentials to meet this job requirement was crazy. You needed international experience. You needed to go to global championships. You basically just needed to be Mark Rowland. To be honest, like have that level of experience in the sport. And
That
the
is often
pay,
how these things work. That is I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be honest, like, but because like if you want someone like Mark Rowan, that's what you have to do. But a lot of these jobs sometimes they are written for someone, particularly when they have such specific criteria.
love knows, mate. He's in these university setups, but no. But I was surprised because the one reason that surprised me that Mark Rowland would go for this job was the pay. I think when it was advertised, it was £50,000 a year, and I'm like, and that is a great salary to be involved in and have endurance program at a university, like etc. Like great opportunity, but for Mark Rowland to do it, I was surprised because he's over, he's working with Team Canada over there, he's been involved in the OTC, like for a fact this guy earns a lot more than that per year. So I think there might be more to this. I am just purely speculating here on the podcast. I mean, call it entertainment, but I wouldn't mind betting. Obviously, Steve Vernon steps down from British Athletics head of endurance, so I wouldn't mind betting if Mark Rowland steps up to a few roles in this country within our governing body.
Yeah, I still don't really know what this role is, to be honest. That
Yeah,
he's
nor do
even
I.
got.
It's a bit wishy-washy.
Um, like, like what even is that? But yeah, I think you make a great point in terms of potentially seeing him go into British athletics in yeah
Look, I think
soon.
he's got some good relationships um, within the sport as well, and him and Mark Monroe and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's we see Mark doing more things. I mean, is he going to relocate all the way across the world? I know he's British, but I wouldn't have thought he would have batted an eyelid at 50 grand a year to head up an
Yeah, it's essentially
endurance program.
it's a university endurance program, part of a what they're calling a global project. But that,
Yeah, what they want to do there is it's almost like they basically just want to turn themselves into Birmingham or Loughborough, where you have, I guess, where these universities do a great job where their endurance programs produce Olympic, European medalists, performers and just high achievers, right? I think that's
Yeah.
probably just what they want to do, period. But yeah, the requirements for this role, like when you read the job application, was honestly, yeah, it was off the charts. You basically needed to be have as much experience and know-how in this sport as Mark Rowland, but the pay in my head didn't reflect that,
Yeah, I mean,
or
I guess,
doesn't reflect that. Like it.
yeah, yeah. No, no, for sure,
So that's
mate.
a bit of
Look,
news for you. That's just a bit of gossip, just a bit of conversations that me and Lum have.
yeah, no, mate. I think it's interesting though, and obviously, like we've seen how much talent Scotland have produced on a global level in the past couple of
Yeah.
years, and if they're thinking about like centralizing that program, if you're
Oh,
thinking
it's
about
huge.
having Jake Wyman, having Laura Muir, having Josh Kerr going back to Edinburgh
Yeah,
as their base in the UK, then you do need someone like Mark Rowland heading that up. Do you
you
know what
do.
I mean? So
Yeah. It could be a Scottish athletics link as well. Like there could be more for him to do there. I think, yeah, to have him back in the UK though is massive. And if he does get involved in British athletics, I think that is going to be very exciting. Hopefully, um, he's allowed to kind of do things his way as well. Because I think this is always the worry when people do get involved in, and obviously he'll have things his way at Edinburgh University, I'm sure. But when people get involved in governing bodies, they're restricted to what they can and can't do. And so hopefully if he does get back involved in a governing body of some sort, I am purely speculating here, but it would be cool and it would be a big asset for Team GB, Team Scotland, whatever. But
yeah, and
anyway, mate,
when did Edinburgh win Bucks Cross then, mate? How long is it going to take?
what is this thing? I'm just shitting it now. Edinburgh Uni, welcome to the party. Yeah, time will tell.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, exciting times.
But
Well,
they've got a lot of, I think,
yeah,
universities like that. I think it is cool that they are acknowledging and going, what can we do here? But I think Mark Monroe is heavily, from what I was reading, is actually involved in Edinburgh Uni as head of like exercise and health there. So I think that obviously um, links into why they would want this role and kind of what the university, the direction it wants to go in.
yeah,
But I think if more universities do this, it's only going to boost. I mean, the NCAA is amazing, but we really can replicate that here.
yeah. Oh, it's
Um,
funny. How many kids now? To be fair, I wonder how many of them know who Mark Rowland is, to be fair. Maybe that's me being like not
yeah, good
understanding
point.
kind of that generation like these days. But obviously when we were 16, 17 applying to university, Mark Rowland was head coach of the OTC, so we all knew who he was. But I wonder how many like school kids realize, okay, if I go to Edinburgh Uni, there's
Yeah,
potential I could get coached by Mark Rowland. Like, is that a possibility? You know? And then you're like, mate, that is, and I'm not dissing any other university coaches, but you're then thinking, well, who wouldn't want to be coached by Mark Rowland, you know?
honestly, their recruitment in 2025 is going to be mega. Yeah, I think all kids doing their UCAS now, if you're listening, add them to the equation.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. So, but yeah, you're right. Well, if you don't know who he is, you can always listen to the Sunday podcast with Mark Rowland.
I
Another
still can't
cracking
believe we have
episode.
had him as a guest, mate.
Huh?
What catch that was.
Yeah. Well, we need to get him on again. Once he
Yeah,
moved over,
yeah.
settled into Edinburgh, probably bump into him at Bucks Cross. We can have him on again. But it's small matter of Valencia Marathon. We won't go into too much detail because obviously that's taking place this Sunday. Would have been and gone. 1 million euros, by the way, is worth mentioning. 1 million euros for a course record. The meet organizers said. I think, goodness me, that is. Where's all this money coming from in this
Well, that's
sport?
what I was about to say, mate. It's great to see that people like care this much about running. I
Yeah,
I think the way that running is taken off as more than like an elite thing, like running is properly booming in the same way that obviously we went around then that we imagine that boom was like kind of in the 70s in the 80s
I
when
just think, yeah, there's more eyeballs on the sport than ever right now because more people are doing it. If more people are doing it, and I think with those people doing it are finally catching up and taking a real interest in the sport as
yeah.
they get better. They look to that next kind of level up, and they study them and they look at them, and so more people are finding entertainment through running. I just think there's way more eyeballs on it, and there seems to be a lot more money starting to be invested. on that as well, World Athletics Ultimate, that's going to be taking place in 2026. We won't talk about that too much, save that for another day. But basically, it's a shortened version of a World Champs. It's going to be happening in 2026. They've axed a few events. It's basically Grand Slam, to be honest. And yeah,
Trying to
that's
compete.
huh?
Trying to compete with Grand Slams, what they do.
Trying to compete with Grand Slam. And yeah, and you wonder as well, like they've put this on, the prize money is 150K, so they've outdone Grand Slam at this World Athletics Ultimate Champs. And you're like, what? Where are World Athletics getting this money from? Like,
I know. Why don't you put that into the World Champs?
yeah,
Just like make it better.
yeah. It's
You think?
anyway.
But
So they've been sleeping on that. They've announced it. Took Grand Slam to do what they're doing to give them a kick up the arse. But we'll talk about that and study it in more detail. There's not too much information on it, to be fair, bar what events are going to be doing it in the prize money structure.
yeah, for sure. Let's get into Kate Axford then, because I'm sure that's why you're all tuning in this week. Because yeah, obviously, great guest for us to have, and it was brilliant to talk to her, mate, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, no, it was. Great story, great attitude around the sport as well. I think very refreshing, and I think it's actually quite scary the potential she has. Where her limit is, I'm excited to see. But yeah, someone who is just starting to come into her prime and starting to unlock all of those kind of fundamentals you need to be doing to be a world-class distance runner, going on regular altitude trips, do you know what I mean? Living like a professional, all those little things.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, you mentioned she's with Kip Run. She's really kicking on with them. Part of that exciting project. It's just up to the Wheeler boys now to add to those kind of athletes they signed the other week. So no pressure, boys. Or the other. Sorry, 'cause
Justify your contract.
yeah, Donnelly and Axford are doing the job, so time to step up. But yeah, anyway, we'll let you listen to Kate because she obviously tells her story better than us. But thanks for listening as always, and we'll catch you very soon. Okay, firstly, Kate, congrats on the win on Saturday, and welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on.
Thanks very much. Yeah, exciting times, but thanks very much for having me on the podcast. It's great to chat to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this has been a few years in the making. You kind of been building your name on the domestic scene for quite a while now. But we did want to kind of start with the transition into running from kind of that GB senior training squad in hockey. What actually kick-started the move? Like, what kind of caused that decision?
So I was basically to cut a pretty long story shorter. It was injury. So I had like quite a few pretty bad injuries that throughout the course of like my hockey career in terms of GB. So I spent a lot of time just like standing on the sidelines in the gym a lot, rehabbing, which is kind of fine if you're doing it for like a couple of months. But I was in the gym, I think, for like 6 months just rehabbing, which was pretty tough. And it basically just got to the point where I'd had like advice from physios and surgeons and like lots of people basically being like, your body probably isn't like able to handle the like change of direction and kind of impact that hockey as a sport kind of like you have to deal with. So yeah, it kind of led me in a bit of a tricky place, and I kind of decided to just like actually start doing something that maybe I wouldn't like have to constantly just be watching other people do, and I could actually kind of like do myself. So yeah, I just like started going for runs after leaving the hockey program, and it kind of just like snowballed from there basically.
I'm amazed that those injuries obviously haven't bothered you yet in running.
Yeah, honestly, so am I, and like touch wood that they don't. But a lot of it is to do with like the kind of change direction aspect of hockey. So obviously, when you're like running in a straight line or running in circles, there's a lot less risk that's something like that is going to happen. So I mean, like I've been fine so far, and I think hopefully that it will be kind of I think it would have reappeared sooner or like before now if it was going to be an issue. So yeah, I'm all good at the moment, which is class.
Yeah. You mentioned kind of you started going for runs and just like going out running.
Was the intention to be elite, or was it just to enjoy sport again? Because were you full time in that program as well?
Yeah, so I was like a full-time athlete in terms of the hockey. And yeah, basically from leaving that, I was just thinking I want to go and do something that I have always enjoyed. I kind of use running as a bit of a break from everything, which I think a lot of people do just generally. And then, yeah, the intention was never to be elite, to be honest. I was just trying to kind of focus on something else and focus on a different sport that I could do. And then, yeah, it was actually my boyfriend who said you should try and like get your 5K time down a bit. And I thought, oh, okay, fine. I think I'd run like unofficially kind of 18 minutes for 5K before that.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah, it's like looking back on it, I was like, it's not that bad. But then I recorded it on my phone, so I was like, you know what? I'm not sure how accurate that actually is, but yeah, I kind of knew that I could run fairly well, so I was like, right, I might just give it a go and see what happens. And then that's kind of where it all started.
We have Jack to thank then.
Yeah.
But let's. Oh wait,
Pretty much.
are you faster than him now, or who's got
Oh,
the
I
fastest
think by a second. I think he actually said something about it last night. He was like, yeah, and unfortunately, like I know it's only gonna like get further and further away. So yeah, he's not bitter about it. I think he likes seeing the journey. But yeah, no, we do have him to thank, to be honest, for me getting into the sport in the first place. So
We do. But let's talk about the level, because you two were just talking off air about hockey, but like Lum knows his stuff, you know, obviously your stuff. But I think a lot of people, Lum, don't realize the level Kate was at and the lifestyle you were living. Like you mentioned, then you were full time. I mean, you must have been wiping the floor with fitness tests, were you, in the GB hockey squad?
yeah, I think they still our S&C guy who did all of our like fitness testing. I wasn't actually allowed to do any running as part of my rehab. They were like, you just don't need to do it. Like there's no use for you to like actually do running sessions. So yeah, I think at some point I might go back and maybe get in with the guys and see how far I can get in terms of their fitness testing. But yeah, it was always like quite a joke that people were just like, oh, Kate she doesn't need to do the running sessions. Like she can just stay in the gym and get a bit bigger, which I probably needed to do. But yeah.
But why? So were you just naturally, I know you did a teeny bit of running as a kid, right? But so were you just naturally just very good at running, like just come easy?
I don't know, to be honest. Like I guess so. I think I mean, like I ran a bit of cross country at school and and stuff like that, but I was never, I mean, like I was all right then, but I wasn't great. But yeah, I don't know. I just think I've got a bit of a gene. I mean, my auntie's really good at running. So she came, I think she was like 11th female in the London Marathon way back when. So like,
oh really? Wow.
She's pretty good runner. And I think I've just been a bit lucky, to be honest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've managed to kind of work on what I had naturally. But yeah, that's kind of it. Like I can't really attest it to anything else, but
I'm intrigued. I just want to, just before we, talk about that transition, when you left hockey and you adapted into kind of normal life, you were living the life of a professional athlete. What was that like? Because obviously quite a few runners have to go through that adaptation and that change in their life. I think it probably happens a lot easier in individual sports. So I'm intrigued to see how you kind of adapted and what job you went and got and basically what the process was.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of like a trial period for me. I went and actually got a job in a cafe. So I was working like shift work, making coffees for the people of West London, which was cool at times. I saw Owen Wilson. I used to serve him his coffee most days. Wow. So yeah, that was great.
Are you allowed to say?
What coffee shop?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a place called Layla's. It's in Notting Hill. So yeah,
Matt's a big Owen Wilson fan, so he's going to be there.
Really? Are you?
Staking out.
Love his films.
Yeah, he used to come in and he'd get a coffee like occasionally, but he used to just come in and buy 7 pastel de nata, like Portuguese tarts.
Yeah.
And just eat them like at the counter. Like he'd just stay there, he wouldn't leave. he'd just stay there and eat like 7, and then he'd come in, and if there weren't any on the counter, he wouldn't even bother coming in. I'd just see him like look and then walk back down the road, and I was just like, oh Christ. But yeah, no, so like basically did that for a bit, had some funny times there, and then got a job in insurance, which I was actually in before I went into hockey, so I kind of like came full circle on that. And yeah, I wouldn't say it was my passion, but it paid the bills for a while. So yeah, did that alongside like trying to kind of get better at running, I guess. And then it obviously kind of came good. But
so did you do the whole semi-pro hockey thing for a little while as well then?
So it doesn't kind of work in the same way, I guess. I mean, in a way it does. Like I was trialing for the GB squad and like that program while I was working full time. So that I kind of had to take like annual leave to actually go and trial and do that whole process. But yeah, I mean, a lot of girls in the team came from university and went straight from university into the squad. So my kind of journey there was a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. Like you've got to balance training. It's probably not as time demanding as running is. Like you don't have to play hockey twice a day. But yeah, it kind of helped, I think, then getting back into like running and having a full-time job. It definitely helped me having done that previously.
Mm. And with that, do you think it was like looking back now, obviously probably not at the time, but do you think it was almost inevitable that you'd kind of reach an elite level again, having known what it takes to do it in another sport, and then I guess having no pressure on it, but also that experience of reaching the elite level? Because I think we know that like across most sports, like elite level athletes could have probably done it in another sport just because that's just how they're wired.
I mean, like as I said before, the intention wasn't to be elite when I started running. I was just like, I just want to enjoy it. But I think honestly, like the amount that I enjoyed and still enjoy it as a sport was just one of the things that kind of made me go like, oh, actually, if I'm like good enough to do that full time, 100% I want to do it. And yeah, I guess like I can't really do things by halves. I think that is a real kind of characteristic of people who are in elite sport, is that if there's something that you want to do, it's kind of like 100% of you goes into kind of trying to achieve that. So yeah, I think that was definitely something that as I got a bit better and I started to see results and I started to like win a few races and stuff like that, I thought, yeah, fine, let's go for it and see what happens.
You know what's pretty refreshing about you is you got involved in the club scene and you were racing track, you were racing cross country. And I feel like so many people in your position, especially at your age, when they, find the sport, I think, you mentioned Andy culling and stuff off there, but it's so easy for them to just go into the roads and just not do anything else, and half marathons and marathons. So what was that, what forced you to get down to a club and really get involved in the sport from the grassroots and not just kind of smash out some training on your own and seek a coach remotely or something like that?
I think the way that I got into the club scene was actually the kind of manager and coach of Belgrave Harriers saw me run through. Like I did a run through 5K in Battersea Park in, I want to say it was like February time of 2023. And what's that?
That recently?
Yeah.
February? Really?
Yeah.
God, for some reason I thought you'd been around a bit longer, but Jesus.
No, it feels like I have. I'm like, God, it feels like I've been around for 10 years, but literally, yeah. 2023. And I think I ran like 16:30 or something like that.
It's bloody good.
Which is all right. And he saw me, he was like, right, I think you need to like come down to the club. And I wanted to join a group. Like I wanted people to train with, and because I didn't really love doing it on my own at that point. And that's definitely something that made me improve quite a bit early on, is that I then went down to Belgrave sessions on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and I trained with the guys. And I just like tried to I started in like the second to top group, and I was like, oh yeah, right, I feel all right. And then kind of like made it up to the top group and was trying to cling on the back of them. And I mean, they're all like great guys down there, and I've like made a lot of mates through that, which I just wouldn't have had otherwise. I think I would have just been quite isolated and like not really kind of understood much about the running scene. And I think I do have them to thank for kind of just like teaching me a lot about running in general. Because I had no idea. Like I would just wear my session shoes or like my carbon shoes on the tube down to the session. Like I wouldn't warm up in anything else. I'd just be like, well, this is a pair of shoes that I've got. I think it was some Adidas Takumis, and I was thinking, well, I'm obviously going to wear them to training because that's what I run in. Just like stuff like that I just had no idea. So yeah, I learned a lot from them. So yeah, it's a great club to be a part of for sure.
And now you know that's like rocking up in your shin pads on the tube, right?
Literally, I know. I was thinking, I can't believe it. Yeah, just putting my gum shield in before I actually leave the flat. It's honestly the same thing. So now I'm looking back thinking, oh geez, what did I do? But it's quite funny.
And literally, what, 2 months later, April 2023, you run 15:49 in your third 5K, sorry, in the first one on the track.
Yeah,
I was going to ask where that performance came from, but obviously you've just said that it just took a couple of sessions, or like a couple months of sessions.
Yeah, it was just that. And I ran the road relays, I think, was my first kind of outing for Belgrave. And I ran the road relays, and I think I got like third fastest leg of the day on that day. And it's a pretty tough run, as in it's probably one of my least favorite runs to do. And yeah, I think after that, the Charlie, the coach there, said, I really think you need to enter this. And I wasn't sure because I kind of looked at everyone's times on Power of 10 and thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to come last. Everyone's really quick. What am I doing? And then, yeah, I just started out in that race and kind of just managed to win, and just thought, I don't know really what's just happened, but here we are. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning of things, I guess. But yeah.
It was cool. You talking about getting. I'm just going back to when you said you got almost like recruited, talent spotted by Belgrave and Charlie, and I'm just thinking like, that just doesn't happen in our sport. Should more clubs do that? Because clearly, you responded to that, Kate. I wonder if others would respond in a similar way. They got at a race, but I feel like local clubs. I'm always moaning about senior presence at clubs. London is okay. There is senior presence, but outside of London, there's not much. And should local clubs kind of talent spot and recruit?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think it's almost, there are lots of good runners out there who aren't part of clubs.
There are.
And I think we've seen as well from like obviously Georgia Bell joining Belgrave, already having Sarah Aston there. And that was kind of one of the things that made me want to join, is that I saw Sarah on their socials. Their social media is really good as a club. And I saw that and I thought, oh, okay, like if she's really good, and that kind of, I could maybe train with her. And yeah, I think now that George has joined, obviously I joined, we've kind of won we've won Mansfield 2 years in a row. Like, I think it just makes people want to join. There's now hundreds and hundreds of members.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that would have happened anyway. But I think it's, especially from the female side of things, it's been quite helpful, I think, for people to see that, I mean, I, for example, am involved in the club and was involved in the club and actually training and going to training sessions. And I think, yeah, just seeing that makes people want to be a part of it, I guess.
I think it just opens, as an athlete as well, it just opens your eyes up to actually the levels of the sport. Do you know what I mean? And had you have not gone down there, like I said, maybe you've just gone down the route of smashing a 10K every now and again and still trying to plug away at it by yourself. And then and the sport loses someone who is now on a GB, heading up a GB team at the European Cross Country Champs. Like, I wonder how many people are slipping through the net.
Yeah, I know it's hard to know, but I do think if more people can get down to those kind of smaller races, then yeah, it would be, we'd not miss so many people probably.
And it's also the great thing about running as a sport, right? You've gone from a sport where you have to jump through hundreds, thousands of hoops to get to train with the best in the country, and move to a sport where you could go down to Belgrave and, like you say, Georgia Bell's there, Sarah Ashton's there, best athletes in the country, and obviously Georgia Bell now, one of the best athletes in the world.
World, yeah,
And they're
exactly.
just there on your doorstep. You can just go and train with them.
Yeah, I think I just love. I mean, I especially love Georgia's story because I think it just shows that you can come from anywhere. It doesn't matter. You just even if you've fell out of love with the sport or you were doing a completely different sport, I think running's accessible enough that it's available to most people, and I like that because also I think people understand it more. Like as you say, talking about the level with hockey, like a lot of people don't really understand hockey as a sport because it's not as popular. And I think now running wise, people, I mean, the number of times people ask you what your 5K time is pretty embarrassing. But yeah, I think it's good to see like a lot of people involved in the sport now in some way. But yeah, it's been great to be part of Belgrave, to be honest.
Okay. One more thing. Are you tired of being referred to as Kate, the hockey player turned runner? Because honestly, in my eyes now, like you've just made the European team, like you've been a top domestic athlete for a little while now, and I don't see you as that hockey player anymore. And do you want to kind of get rid of that narrative, or are you happy with just being like, yeah, that's me?
I'm kind of happy with just thinking, yeah, it's me. I think it was
Fair.
such a big part of my it was such a big part of my like childhood growing up. I come from a family of hockey players. My sister's actually currently kind of in the GB setup, and she's younger than me. And my brother was involved for a bit, and so like it's part of probably the Axford family. So I don't want to kind of get rid of it, but I think it does. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, guys, I am now a pro runner. Like I'm not playing hockey anymore. Like I haven't picked up a stick since 2022 or whenever it was. So yeah, it's fine. I don't mind it at all. But sometimes you're like, no, I promise I am actually a runner now. Like I've left that behind.
Yeah. And let's talk about when you kind of really made that transition. Then obviously we mentioned 15:49 in that first track 5K. What happened between then and I guess we'll go to that 15:19 fourth at British Champs in 2024. So just in June this year,
Yeah.
that is a huge chunk when you're already running 15:49, right? And obviously you've gone from trying to get into the sport from a enjoyment perspective to your fourth at British Champs, fourth in the UK. So what was that year like?
That year was a lot of learning. I think as I learned more about the sport, more about training, more about how I should be running, that definitely helped me make some kind of ground. I changed my training slightly. I guess probably the biggest thing as well is I actually had a winter, which is a lot to be said for it. I did a bit of cross country. I kind of started doing double runs. I started upping my mileage a little bit. Just things that I hadn't had the chance to do before starting sport, which definitely came into play for running a bit quicker. And I think I just also started pushing myself more in training, just because before I probably had been focused on kind of hanging on, and then I was like, actually no, I need to kind of get the most out of myself in each session. And then obviously having the couple of months of being full time really helped kind of make that progress. But yeah, honestly, I think it was mainly the winter that really stood me in good stead going into that season.
And in this season was quite a bit of change for you as well. There was a lot on the pipeline. I think I even remember maybe some rumors, early last year even about you potentially signing, pro. I know you sort of were getting involved in a few groups.
I was dabbling,
Yeah, dabbling in a few groups, seeing how things were. I mean, how were you approaching all of that? Because like who was kind of in your corner helping you? Because for someone who's just switched to the sport and then like maybe 18, 24 months later is having to go through all these decisions and I guess you haven't grown up in it, you don't have all those kind of connections and people to bounce off. Like,
no,
how are you going through all that? Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty overwhelming, to be honest. I think that you can get a lot of advice from people that now looking back on it, I'm glad I didn't take it.
Oh,
I think people saw me as probably somebody that I was obviously very new to the sport, and actually signing with an agent, having an agent has been so helpful, because it just means that it took that kind of, like, I wouldn't know where to start with commercial conversations. I was just kind of trying to go to training and eat and sleep and not completely break. So when it came to those kind of conversations, I was like, look, I'm going to leave that to somebody else, which is great. And then it was overwhelming at times. I just think I've got the right people in my corner to be able to kind of chat to and make those decisions and bounce that off. And ultimately I did make the right decision, but it can be pretty overwhelming when I was like, I'm new to the sport. I'm about to kind of leave my job to go and be a full-time runner. Like, you've got to make sure it feels right before you do something like that. So it was a bit of trial and error, I think.
you don't need to mention names, but I just wonder what advice people were or you were receiving that you are now happy that you didn't act on.
I think some people were saying that I didn't need an agent. And I was like, well, you know what? I probably do. Like, there's no way that I could have had any of those conversations or even known like what constituted a good professional deal. Like, even just things like that, I had no idea what kind of that level was. So no, I mean, I'm very glad that I do have an agent now, and that's all fine. But at the time I was like, no, I really feel like I do need an agent. So but just like stuff like that otherwise I would have been in the deep end, like not knowing what to do.
And why did you opt for Kit Run in the end? What was kind of the deciding factor there?
I think they're obviously a new brand, kind of challenger brand in the running space. And they put a lot of faith in me as someone who is, again, like quite new to the sport. I knew I could run a lot faster this season, but to have a brand that also knows that you can do that and kind of wants to support you through that, and also support you to be able to go full time is a huge thing. Like, I know that some people probably aren't in the fortunate enough position to be able to train full time and not worry about having another job on the side. So I thought for me, that was kind of the biggest thing, was being able to have that time to recover, to train properly, and do all of that. And ultimately, like, Kipron were really happy to support me through that. So that was ultimately why I was like, that's kind of the brand that I wanted to go for.
No,
and again, like a bit like Massive, you don't have to kind of give figures or anything, but I've heard the Kit Run like bonus structures are pretty good as well. So things like making teams and stuff are really quite valued in your contract, or like not yours specifically, but in general.
No, I think they are. I think the one thing about them is that they really value their athletes that they have. So they don't want to almost like, they don't want to take from you. They kind of want to like they want to see you achieve things and reward that. So I mean, it's great. And I think I've been very lucky that they've been kind of like so supportive of me, but also I guess in return, I'm hopefully giving them the results that are giving them the exposure that they want. And I mean, like Abby Donnelly as well, obviously signed with them before I did. And kind of seeing her do that as well was a real kind of, I guess it was like a boost to me. I thought this is kind of an exciting brand to go with at the time. And obviously signing the Wheeler brothers as well. Like, there's some really kind of interesting athletes on their roster. And I mean, it's a great band to be a part of, to be honest.
No, it certainly seems that way, and certainly seems like they do want to develop athletes, which I think has obviously paid off big time with yourself. Something else which might have paid off pretty well is you made a coaching switch this summer. Why and kind of how did you choose? A bit like a brand, you said you were debating, dabbling. Did you have conversations with various coaches, or was it just one?
I think again, it can be overwhelming when you make a switch to another coach. And I was very adamant that it had to be the right one, because I didn't want to switch to a coach and then kind of switch again like a couple of months later and then be kind of all over the shop. I wanted to go with someone who I could really see like longevity with. And I kind of had a few links to different people and chatted to a few people, and ultimately Hendo was the guy that I went with, and that's been a great relationship so far. And I mean, he's class. I'm sure you guys know him. Like, he's a great guy as well. So it's been really, it's definitely been one of the things that has brought me on to probably the performances that I've had recently as well. And I definitely kind of needed that kind of coaching setup and that structure, and someone to just kind of have a real like plan of what I'm doing and where I'm going. And it's been really helpful because it just kind of takes a worry off my back. I don't have to be questioning my training or anything like that. So
yeah. Do you feel like you're at that point? You're getting to a level where you were just starting to be like, am I doing the right things? Am I on track? Is there something else that I could be doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was still with Charlie at Belgrave. So he's a great guy, but he was trying to manage a club of 100 plus athletes as an 8-year-old guy. Like, it's a tough gig. So
He does a great job.
I think we both kind of got to the point where he knew that it was probably time that I got a bit more kind of help with my training. And I didn't have to kind of almost like self-coach myself sometimes, which is tough, especially when I'm like trying to compete at what is the top level in the country. I was just like, whoa. But yeah, no, it's been great so far.
And how have you been finding kind of that, I guess, the living situation with being in London? Obviously, Andy Henderson's up in Leeds. Have you considered moving up there, or how often are you going up there to train, or is it purely a kind of remote situation with coaching?
I think a lot of people have asked me, like, are you going to move to Leeds? Like, what's happening? And I think, that is the plan, probably, to go up there and kind of get out of London, because London's hard when I live like northwest, so pretty central actually, and it's just not ideal for the running lifestyle. So to be like closer to Andy Henderson and kind of everyone up there in terms of the Leeds talent hub is, in my kind of mind, pretty invaluable to the progression I'll hopefully make over the next 3 years or so. That's the plan. But you never know what can happen in a few months, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But
Jeez, what's Jack going to do without some Richmond Park laps on the bike or something?
Hey, he's more excited than I am. He's saying, get me to the Yorkshire Dales. I think he's
true.
He may as well have his bike there already, to be honest. But he's all good. He's a supportive guy. Like, he knows that that this is kind of what I want to do. So he's happy.
Awesome. Wait, I can't believe we haven't even really talked about Liverpool properly yet. So let's really dive into that then. Liverpool itself, I mean, obviously you made the move to Henderson. Like, when did you guys start talking about making a Eurocross? Did you feel like you just needed to make a GB team and almost just get that box ticked? Or
I don't really know. I think and Hendo as a coach is he doesn't want to put too much pressure on, and I think that's something that I quite like. He's a very calming presence when I'm getting stressed. So he didn't want to kind of say like, oh, I know you can get a vest. We're back in September, even though he probably did think that, and I kind of thought that as well. But I think when it got closer to the time, like obviously my run in Cardiff, I surprised myself slightly with how I ran there, and I knew my training had been good leading up to it. I knew that the altitude camp in Fon that I'd been on had been pretty good. So I was confident going into it. But then I think after Cardiff and having run like that, I just thought, let's just go for it and see what happens at Liverpool. And I think, honestly, I was kind of thinking, if I'm going to try and get in the top 4, I may as well race to win it. Was my headspace going into it. Hendo just said, like, run hard, as you always do. He was getting more technical, saying choose your line, and I looked at the mud and I thought, Hendo, there is no good line. in any of this. So yeah, that was. I'm not sure the technicalities actually came to fruition, but yeah, I just ran hard and kind of that was my plan.
Mm. Yeah, I think I saw in your post race interview. I can't remember who it was with, to be honest, but I think I saw it on Instagram that you just talking about it was kind of muddy and it's the same for everyone, and just get on with it. I think a lot of athletes do. Obviously, there's a lot of race prep that goes in, but sometimes cross country, right? Like it's just about running hard and being the toughest person on the course, right?
Yeah, I think so. I was thinking to stay on your feet. That was what was going through my head. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, Poppy Tank obviously went off very quickly, which was a really brave run from her. And in my head, I just thought if I can kind of stay within distance, then hopefully at some point I'll be able to push on a bit. But yeah, honestly, I was just trying to stay on my feet and tried to turn the screw a little bit when I went. And yeah, in the end, obviously got the win, but it was a tough run for everyone. And I don't think Turkey's looking like that at all. So it's going to be really interesting how that translates. But yeah.
But I would say actually more than probably any of the other teams. Maybe that's unfair, but the senior women, you all are very good 5K runners. And some of our best 5K runners, on the track. So I'm kind of feeling like out of all the teams who are going to be able to handle Turkey pretty well, you guys are going to be in good stead there.
Yeah, I think so. Like Izzy obviously had sub 15 run in the summer. Carrie has ran really well, really strong. Abby Donnelly's also just come back from injury and has managed to produce that run on at Liverpool, which is, I mean, probably testament to how good she is cross country. But yeah, I think looking at us as a team, I think we're definitely probably are all thinking that we want to go and kind of contest that gold because why not? But I can't speak for everyone, but I'm sure we're thinking the same thing.
Yeah, no, I think you have a very, very good chance. I just want to ask, actually, you end up winning by a pretty big margin, like was it 15 seconds or so, maybe just over. What's it like to be out front at Liverpool? Just, you're just cruising along, picking your way through the mud, and you've got a nice margin like that. What are the kind of the emotions over that last K or so?
I didn't really realize that I was going to win, as in it only dawned on me that I was going to win when I was coming down the hill to then turn the corner and come back up the finishing straight. And I never look behind me as a rule, like when I'm in the race. And I did just coming up the finishing straight because I just thought, oh, am I going to have to run really hard up this hill, or can I kind of like just get up it? And obviously then I realized that I was going to win. But yeah, before then I was trying to dodge through everyone that was on their second lap still. And I think running in London has helped me a bit there because I'm used to trying to dodge around people. And I was choosing my line and thinking I might run into you. But yeah, so I think that helped a bit. But no, I think it was just, I don't really know what was going through my head. I just kept thinking like, try and distance it more. Just try, if you keep running hard, then the gap will get bigger. And as soon as I kind of heard people not shouting for the girls behind me when I was coming past, I thought, okay, maybe I've managed to break the gap a little bit. But yeah, I just had Hendo shouting concentrate to me the entire time. So that's all I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll concentrate. And then, yeah, when I realized I was going to win, I just thought this is pretty sick.
Pretty sick.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
And nailed it first time as well, right? That's your first Liverpool long course. Obviously, narrowly missed out on that mixed relay team last year.
Yeah.
Coming third. Well, to be fair, say narrowly missed out. Who knows who you get selected?
Who knows? I know.
But, I think most people, yeah, you mentioned kind of that finishing straight. A lot of people, especially their first team, experience the kind of the rush where they're having to look over their shoulder with bodies absolutely everywhere. Finishing 4th to 10th is all together, but you had, I guess, the luxury putting in the hard work to make sure that you could chill through the line.
Yeah. I think it was the last lap was tough, but I think once I got through the really shit part of the back. Sorry, I probably can't swear, but the really rubbish
No,
part
all good, all good.
okay, of like the backfields, which was just a bit of a slog. After I got through that, I thought this will be okay. And to be fair, everyone on the second lap who I was overtaking was cheering me on, so that was spurring me on. I was like, some just really nice Scouse lady shouting, "Go on, love!" I was like, yeah, I'll go. So yeah, no, it was good.
Big perks to lapping people, that's for sure.
Yeah, big perks.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Well, it was a very impressive run, and I think it was a little bit shocking that it wasn't a harder contest over that last K or two. You were able to break clear. But is Euros going to be the end of your cross season? Are we going to see you post Christmas race? Are we going to go? You're going to go indoors? I mean, Worlds is. I mean, how close do you think you're going to be to making Worlds? Because the way you've been improving, I would say you're almost going to be that women's 5K is so competitive, and you're just another name who's going to probably get that standard, but maybe that's putting pressure on you.
No, I don't think it is. I think I've kind of thought about it, and there's European indoor, which is the next goal for me. So after Christmas or after Europeans, to be honest, I'll be like focusing in on that on the indoor, and it's something I really enjoyed last year, but I only got about 2 races, so I want to do a bit more, try and get that European standard on the 3K. And then, definitely try and contest Worlds. I think it's just, we'll just kind of see how the season pans out, but it's definitely like in my mind. It's not, I'm not kind of counting myself out of it already. So
what's the time for the 3K?
Europeans, I think it's 8:44.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doable then after winning Liverpool. I think that's definitely.
Yeah, I mean, around 8:52 at Watford.
I was going to say, yeah.
A Watford Wednesday. And so, yeah, I mean, I like indoor, and hopefully having like this winter and obviously changing coach. I think I'm confident that hopefully I'll manage to get that standard. Obviously, that's only the first part of it. You've got champs, you need to come top 2 or whatever it is. I probably actually need to read the selection policy a bit closer, but yeah, I think that's kind of the goal. So we'll see what happens, but it's just so competitive at the moment, and in a good way. I mean, like British distance running, especially like the female side as well as the male side, is just class. So when you do get those moments to actually represent and go to these champs, I feel like I don't want to take any of it for granted, because it's very competitive.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, look, we wish you all the best at a European cross, and then, of course, in your indoor season as well. But thanks so much for chatting to us.
No, thank you guys for having me on. It's been great.